is part of our Live from the Library program. Our next event is a Live at the Library Extra, because it will be on a Saturday night after the library has closed on July 16th. And it's an evening of real stories with the theme Life's a Trip. And I have it on very good authority that some local celebrities will be telling stories of their trips, so you might want to check that out. On October 27th, we will welcome a Walnut Creek native, Eric Sanderson, author of Mannahatta, A Natural History of New York City. Eric is a landscape ecologist, and he will explore with us the way Manhattan Island looked when Henry Hudson first sailed up the river that now bears his name in 1608. For more information on all of our programs, you can check our website, wclibrary.org. This program, along with the entire Live at the Library series, would not be possible without the support of Broadway Plaza, Minuteman Press, and the Contra Costa Times, and donors like all of you. Those of you that are not donors, I have a wonderful opportunity. Out at the sign-in desk, we have our donor brochure. So I hope you will join us in making the library a very special place and allowing us to continue these wonderful programs. Our moderator tonight is Gordon Freeman. Gordon has served on the Walnut Creek Library Foundation board and has worked on senior issues for several years. He has served on the board of Contra Costa for Every Generation and Senior Helpline Services. Gordon earned his PhD in political science with an emphasis on public policy from UC Berkeley, and he is the Rabbi Emeritus at Congregation B'nai Shalom in Walnut Creek. So without further ado, my friend Gordon Freeman.
Thank you very much, Carol, and good evening, everybody. Several months ago, exactly on May 12th, several weeks ago, May 12th, Contra Costa County, the Times, came out with this headline, which says, upside down, Bay Area aging faster than state. Okay? So this is perfect for us this evening. As Carol said, I was involved with the Contra Costa for Every Generation, which was an initiative to deal with the aging process in Contra Costa County. It turned out that we were one of the leading areas in the country dealing with the fact that boomers are going to become seniors, and are we prepared? Are there enough adequate services available locally to deal with the issues that people as they age will encounter? There is a chart that I have in front of me, the aging of Contra Costa County 2000 to 2040. In 2040, there will be a growing number of people who are the age 65 to 74, and a growing number of people 85 and over. In fact, the fact of the matter, there will be more people over 60 than there will be people under 60. Are we prepared? And you probably know the answer to that. But it's my pleasure, to introduce our panel, all of whom I've known personally for a while, serving in boards with them. They are the experts in the field, not only in Contra Costa, but throughout the area. First of all, I want to introduce Linda Fodrini Johnson, and she will be speaking about parenting the parent. As parents age, their dependency and real needs pull adult children to what feels like a role reversal. Her presentation will talk about what happens and how we can deal with it. Linda Fodrini Johnson, in 1989, founded Elder Care Services here in the county and also in San Francisco, a firm that provides comprehensive geriatric care management services to aging adults and their families. Linda received her bachelor's degree from Cal State University Hayward and her master's degree in clinical psychology from John Kennedy University. She was also honored several months ago by the Contra Costa Times as a local hero. Linda lectures all over the county about her programs, and she is a pioneer in developing programs for individuals with Alzheimer's. At the Diablo Respite Center, she created a unique first-of-its-kind program, since copied nationally, for those in the early stages of memory loss. Linda recently served on a select committee of experts appointed by Mayor Gavin Newsom for award-winning Alzheimer's care planning in San Francisco. She is currently the president of the National Association of Professional Geriatric Care Managers. In 2008, she was honored with the Adele Alkine Award, the most prestigious award given to a member. Our second speaker, Shirley Krohn, retired in 1997 after a 40-year career with the same corporation. She embraced volunteerism even before retiring, serving as a board chairman of Spectrum Federal Credit Union for over 35 years. Her volunteer efforts cover many areas of interest, including elder abuse, predatory lending, and workforce development issues. She is a past chairman of the Elder Financial Protection Network. Shirley serves as the first vice president of the Contra Costa County Area Agency on Aging and the Advisory Council on Aging, where she chairs the legislative work group. She is a senior assembly member for the California Senior Legislature representing Contra Costa County. She also served to establish the CASE program in the county. CASE stands for Communities Against Senior Exploitation, and produces seminars for our aging population and protection from frauds, scams, and ID theft. Our last speaker, or the last person I'm going to introduce, is Elaine Welch. She has been a registered nurse since 1979. In 1979, she received her MBA from St. Mary's College in Moraga. 25 years of her career were spent with Kaiser Permanente, primarily in the corporate offices, with responsibility for Medicare compliance in all Kaiser regions throughout the United States. She specialized in Medicare benefits, coverage and utilization, and quality of care and services for the elderly and disabled. After retiring in 1998, she became a long-term care ombudsman for Contra Costa County, an adult literacy tutor, and a board member for Project Second Chance, a Medicare consultant, senior advocate, and youth mentor, all on a volunteer basis. It's amazing. But Elaine is amazing, just like Shirley and Linda. After having volunteered for Contra Costa for Every Generation, a nonprofit organization formed in 2004 to help communities in Contra Costa become good places to age, and then serving as a CCEG board member, she was selected to become the organization's first executive director in August 2008. In August 2010, she returned to Senior Helpline Services as executive director and brought CCEG and its board of directors with her. CCEG Contra Costa for Every Generation has been renamed as Agents, A-G-E, ENTS, get it? Agents for Change, and is now a program of senior helpline services. I'm going to ask each of our speakers this morning to give us a brief introduction to what they do and the organizations that they lead. And we're going to begin with Linda Fodrini Johnson.
Hey. Good evening. As Gordon said, I am the founder of Elder Care Services, and my organization does geriatric care management. Of course, we do home care and lots of family education. That is unique to what my organization does. But I want to talk to you about my national role and being a leader in the National Association of Geriatric Care Managers, because a lot of people don't know what we are and who we are and what we do. So I just want to make sure that you understand that a geriatric care manager is a health and human service professional, usually with an advanced degree, and should be somebody who belongs to the National Association and is certified as a care manager. Because a care manager, when they sit down with whether it's an elder themselves or the family, or a family in conflict over what to do about mom or dad or grandma and grandpa, is somebody that needs to know about what the legal tools are, what the entitlements are, what the resources in the community are that keep people independent and able to live in the community before they have to go to a community living situation, help them through the maze of applying for things like Medi-Cal or whatever that benefit might be. So the care manager works with the older adult and their family, and sometimes it's just the older adult themselves that doesn't have family and they want an advocate for themselves, especially in the medical arena. I have an 89-year-old mother who just recently was discharged from the hospital, and I found out at discharge that she was actually on the wrong medications. When she was in there, they had her on the medications that she was on in March. So if you do not have an advocate for yourself when you're hospitalized, that's what a care manager would do for you to make sure that you're getting what you need. And when you're not feeling very well, even if you're mentally competent, you all need an advocate in the medical arena for sure. And so geriatric care managers act as patient advocates. They act as family mediators. They act as the coach, especially when it comes to dementia. The program that I directed back in 1984 was the very first Alzheimer's respite program in the East Bay. Most people couldn't even say Alzheimer's disease then. They didn't know how to pronounce it. Now we all know it and fear it, actually. And 50% of those over the age of 85 have an organic dementia. So the longer we live, the more likely that we can have a dementia. And are we prepared? Have we articulated our values and our wants to our family members? So if you're an elder and your adult child doesn't know what your wishes are, then they're going to make decisions for you if you lose capacity. So a geriatric care manager would meet with the family system, look at the values of the elder, and help that family make the very best decisions for the highest quality of life based on the values of the elder. Many years ago, I was called in by an adult son and daughter-in-law. Their mom was at a lovely assisted living facility. She moved from San Francisco. She was an Italian woman. I grew up in San Francisco in an Italian neighborhood, so I knew exactly how she grew up or how she lived. In San Francisco, all the Italians in our neighborhood, they didn't cook in their kitchen. They cooked in the garage because they didn't want to get their kitchens dirty.
That's true. Yeah.
And so the son and daughter-in-law placed mom in the most lovely facility. It was gorgeous, and mom's crying all the time. And I'm a therapist and a geriatric care manager, so he wanted me to see mom. And she said, "Why am I living on this cruise ship?" It wasn't a right match for her values. That was not a good, the children chose what they would want for themselves. So when we're making choices for others, we need to come to those choices on their values, on their life, on their path. And so that's, again, what a care manager makes sure families do. And so in that situation, we moved the mom to some place that wasn't so lovely, but she was happy. You know, she had the red and white tablecloths, you know. It looked like an Italian restaurant where she ended up. But so she was happy. So wrong choices, even though families are doing their best to make choices, can happen when you choose for someone else or make decisions for somebody else, not knowing their values. And this is especially important with end-of-life issues, something that sometimes we don't like to talk about. But in the ER with my mother, boy, that doctor just asked her some point-blank questions in front of my brother, and she said, "I've had a good life. I'm 89. If I have a heart attack, let me go. Don't break my ribs." That's what happens, you know, when you get resuscitated and you're 89 and frail. So she was really clear about it. It was good for my brother and I to hear that right from her currently, not from when she did her legal documents 5 or 10 years ago. And that's the other thing, is to refresh those documents. I usually suggest to all families, all of you, to look at your legal documents, if you're a couple, the month of your wedding anniversary, and if you're a single person, the month of your birthday. So look at your legal documents. Are they accurate? Has there been changes in where you want to leave money? In my legal document, it says I must be managed by a geriatric care manager and not my daughters. Gordon said, parenting your parent. I'm not going to let them do that. I'm going to have one of me parent me. and I did that just because any of you that have been on this course of taking care of an aging family member, it eats up all your time, day and night. It's hard to have a life. And my daughters both have families, and it would be hard for them to drop everything and take care of mom. Especially me, because I know I'm going to be fiercely independent. And I need to see trees, I need to have pets in my environment. I have all these weird things about what I want in my life, but they need to be articulated to my family so I could be directed and coached, or my daughters can be coached in decision making based on mom's values and what would make mom happy. And I want to work all my life too, not as much as I work right now, but like you guys, I would like to volunteer work. And when we get into the baby boomers, as the baby boomers age, we're not so likely to go to assisted living. Some of you might be baby boomers out there. There are some new ideas and concepts of aging in place. There's co-housing, and there's the village model. We don't have any village models here in Contra Costa yet that I know of. I hope that somebody's generating one. The one in Berkeley and the one in San Francisco.
That's true.
And that I know of. And that is where, in your community, suppose you took like the city of just Walnut Creek or a section of Walnut Creek, that you come together and you self-manage and you put in like $50 a month, and that is used for either services for you to help you stay in your own home, and it's governed by the people in that community. So again, a geriatric care manager, besides looking at your values, leads you to new solutions and new ideas that you might have not have been exposed to. Benefitscheckup.org. If you don't know that website, know it now. You put in your information or your family members' benefits with an S, checkup, all one word, .org. It's a government website. You put and it's secure. You put all your information in, and it will tell you what you're entitled to, whether it's VA benefits or whatever. And a few years ago, before I was really old, I put all my information in, and I qualified for a pass to the national parks. So you just don't know what you're going to qualify for, no matter what your age is. So try it. And so again, that's what a geriatric care manager does with families, and we have public people that do that, nonprofit, and mine is a fee-for-service private business, Elder Care Services. Thank you. Benefitscheckup.org.
Thank you very much. Now I know I better check up on all my documents. I didn't think about that before. By the way, I forgot to announce, I think all of you, or a lot of you knew about this already, there is a lot of information on the table over there. Each person is, Linda, Shirley, and Elaine have brought information about the issues that are concerning them, and before you leave, you should take a copy of them. I'd like to now call on Shirley Krohn, who will speak about a really tough issue, really impossible issue. Unfortunately, it's an issue that we have to deal with in these times, and that's elder financial abuse.
Thank you, Gordon. As the president of the Contra Costa County Advisory Council on Aging, I have proclaimed in the April meeting that 2011 will be the year that Contra Costa County aggressively fights elder financial abuse. And we have rolled it out. We're looking for volunteers to be trained to provide presentations to groups of seniors throughout the county to let them know how they can protect themselves from fraud, scams, and ID theft. So if anyone in this room is interested in learning more about that, come and see me after the presentation. I'll be happy to give you some more information. But there are many different kinds of elder abuse, and I'm sure if I ask for a raise of hands, you could all tell me what they are. Physical, sexual, psychological neglect, and of course financial. But when it hits the pocketbook, that's where it really hurts, because once the money is gone, it is gone forever. And I like to use the analogy that when you push toothpaste out of a tube and then try to put it back, doesn't work, does it? That's what happens when you're ripped off financially. Very seldom is there restitution. Very seldom is there any payback from these crimes. Who are the perpetrators? I think this is the most heartbreaking part of it, because most of the perpetrators of financial crimes are the adult children and other family members. Why do you think that is? Greed, debt, gambling issues, drugs and alcohol. There's a whole host of reasons why people would like to get the senior separated from their assets. And you know, I think the most disheartening part of that is these are the people that you trust. And the ones, and I'm not saying this is true in all cases, but there happens to be statistics to prove that family members are the greatest perpetrators of these crimes. Caregivers also. And of course, there's all the third-party people, the internet scams and whatnot, and we'll go into that a little bit. But why are elders targeted for these kinds of crimes? Well, 66% of the wealth in the United States is owned by people over the age of 60. Now, you might question that when you see the decline of property values and whatnot, but that's not going to last forever. And those of you that are on the beginning edge of being an elderly person, chances are your assets are going to grow over time. I think another area that's particularly troubling is isolation and people who are lonely. Isolation, what I like to tell seniors or when people I'm training, is be a nosy neighbor. I don't know if any of you saw the article in the Times not too long ago about a woman who was living by herself, and she actually died in her, I don't know, it was an apartment or a condo or something, and it wasn't until a week or so later when she was discovered. And that's horrifying to me, because probably somebody noticed that she wasn't picking up her mail, or the papers were accumulating or whatever, and no one thought to do anything about it. And I think that in and itself is just a crying shame. But I tell people to be a nosy neighbor, because you might be saving somebody's life. And if you can't get in that person's property or check on them yourself, then I tell people to call the police and ask for a welfare check. The police will go out and check on that property and see if anyone is in there and if there's an emergency that needs to be taken care of. So loneliness and isolation are really, really big hazardous areas for seniors. And people that are dependent on others for care. When you're selecting or looking for somebody to take care of a loved one, there's certain criteria that you really should think about. And I would say working with somebody like Linda, it would be a good first step to finding out. Many care providers call themselves care providers, but they don't do adequate background checks, if they do it at all. And I know for a fact that prisoners leaving the penal system in the state of California are counseled by the penal system to look for a job in caregiving because they don't do background checks. That's a fact. That is a fact. Okay, so you need to be extra careful when you're selecting somebody to take care of a loved one. Financial abuse, you know, there's internet fraud. How many of you have ever gotten an email that you've won a lottery or send money to Canada or something? I mean, we all have, right? You would be amazed how many people fall for that. And I know of instances where they're sitting in the district attorney's office holding on to the thought that they have won the lottery, and in fact, they don't ever give up on that. They think every senior I know that goes to the store every Saturday or Wednesday to get a lottery ticket wants to win the lottery. So when they get something in that says you've won it, boy, that's going to make my day. But it's a fraud. It's absolutely a fraud. And I tell people, so where's the ticket you purchased for this lottery? There isn't any. It's a fraud. ID theft is another one that I like to, in fact, it's one of my favorite topics, and because many of us are on Medicare. Not everybody belongs to an HMO that gives you an encrypted card with a unique identifying number on it. Many of us have to use our Medicare card to get medical assistance, right? What's on the front of your Medicare card? Thank you, yeah, right? Whoever thought of that? Now, I'll tell you, I have tried to get legislation to get the government to encrypt those cards, but under current conditions in Washington, D.C., it ain't gonna happen anytime that I know of anyway. So you're gonna continue, for those that are not on Medicare, you're gonna continue to see the Social Security number on the card. And what I advise people to do is to leave the card at home, except for when you need to use it for a doctor's appointment. And then take it with you when you know you're going to have to show it for identification. You would be amazed how many people carry their Social Security card on them. Just is very surprising. And I tell people, don't. You don't need to carry your Social Security card. Leave it at home in a safe place, but don't carry it with you. People are ripped off constantly by scam artists, looking to get your wallet. And men tend to carry their wallets in the back pocket, and I've got little tricks about how to take care of that too. But I tell people, carry your belongings in a rubber band and put it in your front pocket. If somebody tries to rip you off that way, you're going to know instantly that somebody's trying to get into your pocket. Not good news. Trust mills. I got, and maybe some of you did too, I got an announcement. Scott's Restaurant is having a seminar, okay? It's a scam. Don't go. And I can give you a lot of information about how that works, and I'm not going to take the time to do it now. But just know that there is no such thing as a free dinner or a free lunch. Believe me, it's just another opportunity to get a hold of your personal information. I have put together this document here that's up here on the table, and it's got phone numbers in the front. And I just want to point out one thing. Most of it is self-explanatory, but the one thing I want to point out is the do not call. If you've signed up for the do not call thing for your home phone and for your cell phone, it is only going to work with certain people. It is not going to take away opportunities for scam artists to call you. So if you've got a phone with a recorder on it and caller ID, if you don't know who's calling, let the phone pick it up, and then you make the decision whether you want to call that person back or not. Anyway, there's a lot more information on here. And I have one other thing, and this is a list of resources in Central County that might be of use to you. A lot of resources and numbers to call. So with that, I will say adieu.
Thank you. You should know that Contra Costa County is one of the second county in the state, Alameda being the first, to have a court and a judge specifically dedicated to senior elder abuse. I know I was one of the people to work on that with Contra Costa Regeneration, and it's really amazing. And Shirley told me before that it's really been very successful to deal with issues of senior financial abuse. I'd like to call now on Elaine Welch, who I think must be one of the county's experts on senior mobility and transportation. over the last number of years, what I've been working with and knowing Elaine, it's amazing how much information that she has and how much networking she's done throughout the county dealing with transportation and for seniors. And in fact, that's what she does professionally as the executive director of Senior Helpline Services. So, Elaine, you're on.
Oh, thank you so much, Gordon. I want to start off by asking you a question. If we could do a show of hands, how many people here this evening are looking forward to putting down their car keys for the last time and as a result of that lack of mobility being placed in a long-term care facility? Is anybody looking forward to that? Oh, yeah, my husband's sitting at the back, and I said, I'm going to ask that question. Don't you dare raise your hand, because he likes to do that to me. I ask that question everywhere I go because I spend a lot of time in nursing homes. I spend a lot of time with seniors. Seniors are my thing, and I am in that oldest group of baby boomers that was talked about earlier. I'm going to be 65 this year, and the older I get, the more precious you all that are older than me become to me, and the more I identify with the needs you have. One of the things I have clearly learned in my time of working with Senior Helpline Services, working as a nurse with seniors, an ombudsman, and doing all the work I did with Medicare, is that one of the things we don't plan very well for our retirement is our mobility outside our home. We think about where we're going to live, where we're going to get our medical care, maybe where we're going to shop, but we forget to remember that there is a myth that those of us who drive are going to drive forever. There are people who drive until they die. In fact, there are people who die in the driver's seat, okay? There is one place I go to, I will not mention it, in this town. I love Walnut Creek, I love the whole Bay Area, but there's a place where I once in a while have to stop at a certain market, and just backing out of the stall there or going into one, I will tell you, I would prefer to go in reverse on 880 during any commute hour, because it's I call it the local bumper car driveway is, and I'm not putting down seniors. I have to tell you, and my husband will attest to this, I've lost my night vision is terrible. My driving is not as good. I'm getting honked at once in a while, so I'm not, and it's not because I'm so beautiful anymore. I think it's because perhaps I do things that are annoying to people, like take a little more time and that sort of thing. But what I want you to do is tonight, please begin, if you have not already, those of you driving in this room, and I have a feeling a lot of you are driving, or you have someone else to give you a ride. I have a handout. I have a number of handouts up here. One of them, this is Elaine's infamous pyramid. This is actually research. And what I did a number of years ago, if you don't need it in front of you right now, though you may want to take notes on it, maybe Gordon could hand some out to those of you, because I've really only got 10 minutes tonight. I do want to tell you ahead of time, I have a whole presentation I do on this. We are all educators up here, and any of you who would like to hear more about this or have me come talk to your group at your church, your country club, your senior organizations, I know these ladies are, and I am always available to do that and be happy to do the longer version. But tonight I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version. This is called Senior Transportation Options in Contra Costa County. I was very frustrated about 6 years ago because I was the executive director of the same place I am now, Senior Helpline Services, and we had a program called Reassurance Phone Friends. We still do. It's a beautiful program where someone calls a senior every day or 3 times a week or as often as they'd like to be called to see how they're doing. Something in the society we often forget is we all need a good listening to. And these people call with compassion. They're friends. They never get together. They're angels to their seniors. They're often referred to as angels. But I was noticing a lot of folks in our program were ending up in nursing homes. And I kept saying, what's wrong? In this county, we have so many resources. Why are so many of my seniors, I'm very possessive and mother hen about it, going to nursing homes when we're calling them every day to see how they're doing? We did lots of referrals and references and got them Meals on Wheels and in-home support services and so many things. Why are they ending up in nursing homes? Because these people were not sick. They were simply old. It is a myth that I'm dedicating the rest of my life to busting. One of the many myths is that aging is an illness. We've got to get rid of that, and I remind my kids all the time, who are my kids in their 40s, aging is not an illness, all right? But there are things that happen to us when we age, and we lose one of the handouts I have up here is showing some various types of eyesight problems that may happen to us. This doesn't mean you're sick. It means your vision is not what it used to be, and it can take various manifestations. If you've got any of these problems going, you really ought not to be driving a car, okay? But, so what do you do? Because in our society, mobility equals independence, and it certainly does here in Contra Costa County. If any of you thought tonight, if somebody took away your car keys and legally took away your driver's license and said, you are never going to drive again, what would you do? And I want us to start thinking about that right now. I created this pyramid for this reason. What happened is, when I was doing my research and figuring out why are so many of the seniors from my organization ending up in nursing homes, because I kept talking to them, they kept talking to me about transportation. I can't get where I need to go. So I went around all over Contra Costa County, and here's what I found out. We have seniors who drive. There are people over 100 years old who are driving in this county. I'm not making a moral judgment or a medical judgment or a clinical judgment if they ought to be driving, but they're driving, they can get from point A to point B. When we get our keys taken away from us for a variety of reasons, hopefully we will be driven by someone else. We'd like to stay in a car, be escorted in, somebody sit and wait with me while I'm at the doctor if I can't see too well, and take me safely back to my home. That may mean a free driver, your neighbor, your friend, your family member, someone. It may also mean a paid driver if you have those resources, but this person's going to stick with you. If you still want to stay in a car, we've got taxi cabs. Why do most seniors, many seniors, not take cabs? Cost? Cost. I hear that all the time. That is a reason, but there are wealthy people who do not take cabs. And you know why? They need an escort with them. Cabs are curb to curb. That cab driver's job is not to go in and carry your groceries in your house for you. You're lucky if he'll put them in the trunk. Okay, I don't mean to put down cab drivers, but that's their job. They're not there to caregive for you. And if you've got a walker and 3 bags of groceries, the furthest that cab driver can take those bags is to your porch. You got quite a day set out for you if you don't have somebody escorting you for that. Public buses and BART, these are wonderful for people that can take them, and we see a lot of seniors on them. But if you've got a problem with a cab because it takes you curb to curb, where do you go for a bus? Bus stop, to bus stop. And that bus stop may not be right where you need to go. And again, there's no one there to escort you. County or BART, same thing. You're going from BART station to BART station, also need to hook up with a bus. That doesn't mean a lot of people in this room can't take the bus or BART, but as we get older, it does create a lot of problems for folks who have limited mobility or need assistance. Paratransit vans. Here in Central County, we have County Link. This is a wonderful service for people who qualify under the Americans with Disabilities Act. And even in a wheelchair, they have a lift and can secure you and get you there. But again, it's a curb-to-curb service. If you need somebody to go into the doctor with you and you're alone, this may not work for you, but it works for a lot of folks. And there's a charge for it. Does anybody know what it costs to take the paratransit? $4, she's right, $4 every time you get off that van. So if you go to the doctor, there's $4. If you're going to the pharmacy afterwards, there's $4, and back to your home, $4. That can be if you're getting dialysis and going 3 times a week. This can be cost prohibitive for some people who, and I'm going to start really talking fast now. She gave me the 2-minute warning. I already been talking fast. Community operated vans. A lot of communities, I know La Miranda has the Spirit, which takes folks in for lunch here at the Walnut Creek Senior Center, and shopping trips and museum trips and that sort of thing for a minimal charge. Friendly visitor programs, wonderful programs that hook you up with a volunteer. Caring Hands at John Muir, the Senior Outreach Services here in Walnut Creek, will hook you up with a volunteer who'll come and visit you once a week. And if you need a ride that day, we'll take you. But if you need 3 rides next week to the dentist, the podiatrist, and your doctor, that's not built into the system. So it's wonderful if you need infrequently to go somewhere and need a friend. This is why we came up with a volunteer driver program called Rides for Seniors. I have brochures for it. please don't y'all call me up today and send me 30 people that need rides. I need volunteers, okay? And we are always, I have, you'll see on my cards that are out here, it says RN MBA. Do not be impressed with that MBA. It is a master's in begging, okay? And what I do, I beg for financial resources, I beg for human resources. Free programs are not free. For every volunteer I can bring on to this program, I can bring 3 to 4 more seniors who otherwise will have no alternative but to stay in their homes and not get what they need and become very ill and have the next ride they get as an ambulance to the emergency room or a hearse to the morgue. And that happens right here in our county. The lady that was just described may have had a transportation issue. Through the volunteer driver program, any of you tonight or any time who are between the ages of 25 and 75, and that's my insurance company, not my standard, and is willing to drive a senior once in a while in your own community and take them to a doctor, to the grocery store, carry their groceries in, and get a hug at the end of that day, hopefully a couple of hours, will be saving someone's life. If not physically, you will be saving someone's life emotionally and spiritually and giving someone quality of life. And I'm going to make you a promise as I'm wrapping this up. If you do that and come to my agency and drive or go to one of these other agencies and drive, I have dedicated the rest of my life. My retirement program is a plan to be taken out from my desk in a body bag. And I tried retirement, and we were a miserable combination. I am going to be there doing what I'm doing as long as they'll let me do it and leaving a legacy behind. I'm very blessed to have a couple people in this room today who are not only, they don't view what they do as a job in our program, they view it as a calling. And we are so blessed to have them. Come and help us if it's in your heart to do it or you know somebody who could help us out, to give rides to folks who need the ride. Thank you.
I'd like to mention that Senior Helpline Services have over 400 volunteers throughout the county, which is amazing, but of course there's a lot more that are needed. A couple of years ago, a number of years ago, my daughter who lives in Michigan, Ann Arbor, who is a geriatric social worker, that's her specialty, to deal with geriatrics. She followed the footsteps of her mother. Anyway, she called me and she said, Mom and Dad, how you doing? I said, we're doing okay. We seem to be doing okay. She says, well, I want to make sure you know. I said, Alana, she was then a discharge planner. And she actually was not discharge planning. She was doing something else, helping getting new clients for our nursing home that she was working for. I said, do you have openings? Is that what you're So we need to be careful. We come down to the second part of our program, and that is I'm going to be asking questions to each one of our panelists about their expertise, their area of expertise. So I'm going to begin with Linda, and the question I'm going to ask her is, how do you confront issues of failing health, hygiene, and memory with your aging parents?
That is pretty difficult. Maybe some of you in this room have done it. When you see your family members' memory failing, when you see that they're refusing invitations, when you see that they aren't as fastidious with their appearance and hygiene, maybe even not smelling very nice, it's really hard for us to see it. Individually, I think denial is a defense mechanism. We all use denial. It's okay to use defense mechanisms. I sent my daughter a whole list of them when she was having some problems and told her to choose one. But the defense mechanisms actually are a way to deal with anxiety, and they sometimes buy us a little time. We don't want to see our parent fail. I'm dealing with my mother and her vascular dementia right now. It's really hard. I mean, it's an emotional roller coaster, and I have 30 years experience as a geriatric care manager. So when you see a family member, it could be a parent, it could be your sister, it could be your next door neighbor. When you see somebody that is obviously starting to fail, the most important thing is how you talk to them. If you say you need to blop, 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 move, hire somebody, you're going to get resistance. If you frame that question or that comment in, I'm really concerned, Mom, your blood sugar's off, you're losing weight, and you don't seem very happy. And maybe it's you just don't feel like cooking because it's not fun to cook for one. Anybody cook for one in here? It's not that much fun, is it? And so for Mom, it was, let's try on Meals on Wheels. How about just trying them out? You don't have to keep it forever. This is the other important thing in this intervention, is it doesn't have to be forever. It's always a trial. Whatever you're going to suggest is a trial, but it's a trial that has to have some time in it. Because when I send somebody to a support group, all of us, if we go into a new situation, the first time, we're not gonna go back. People weren't that friendly. The second time you go back, well, somebody remembered you and remembered your story. The third time you go back, you're getting something meaningful from that participation. The same thing with the Meals on Wheels drivers are a touch. They're a visit, they're a face, they're a way to be connected to the world, especially if you can't drive. So you start slowly with whatever that idea is, and you come to that person with, I'm concerned about fill in the blank, instead of using you should. You should is gonna get you resistance, and whatever you suggest is only temporary. If your family member has a dementia, and you have legal powers to make decisions for them, you might have to do what we now call therapeutic fiblets. Doesn't that sound good? As my husband said to me a long time ago when I called it stretching the truth, he said, "You're gonna teach people to lie?" He said, well, they gotta protect their family members somehow and protect their dignity and reduce anxiety for everybody. So you need to learn how to do this. And in my office, we have a free class on dementia the third Friday of every month where we have an Academy Award nominated film, and we teach families how to communicate so you can keep that person safe for as long as possible. A lot of people can live independently with dementia for longer than you think, with some little safety checks and some community resources and some new technologies. So again, Gordon, the most important thing is you start slow, you come from a place of I'm concerned about whatever that is, and then you come in with some suggestions, and whatever that suggestion is, it's short-term only to try it out.
That reminds me of the basic law for grandparents. You know, grandparents have to learn how to lie and bribe. You lied to your grandchildren's parents. Everything was wonderful. And then you bribe the children, the grandchildren, to make sure it'll be wonderful. So I guess it works both ways. Linda. No, I'm sorry, Shirley.
Yes.
I think you touched about this, but I think it would be good for us to hear some more information about how prevalent is elder financial abuse.
Well, it has been identified as the crime of the 21st century, and it's getting worse all the time, as of course as an aging population continues to age, because it's not going to stop. About 250,000 to 500,000 are ripped off annually in the state of California. Think about it. Think of all of the assets that are lost to people that are unscrupulous for whatever their scam happens to be. About 1.5 to 2 incidents of financial abuse happens every minute. So yeah, it's something to be reckoned with, and we need to learn how to protect ourselves. And unfortunately, a lot of the elders today, many are World War II veterans, for example, who are what we have termed the trusting generation, and so they trust what people tell them, and what they're being told is not always going to be good for them. I have to comment on something that Linda said, and it makes me smile, but it also is very, very disturbing. My sister has dementia and Alzheimer's. And one of the first clues was when we found her cooking her remote control in the microwave. And I asked her, do you want some salt and pepper to put on that for dinner? I mean, I really didn't know yet yeah, and how serious it was. A couple of weeks later, I found the top of a mayonnaise jar stuck in her toaster. So, you know, one of the other reasons I mentioned that is that she could be a victim very easily, could be gullible and be taken advantage of. She would open the door willingly to anybody that came. She would get up in the middle of the night and take a walk, thinking that it was time for her to go to the gym to do her exercise class. How easy could it have been? Her safety was at stake. And I bring that up because a lot of people are walking around like that with many levels of cognitive inability, if you will. So yeah, financial abuse is prevalent, and it's something that's going to get worse as we continue to age, because we're not going to stop aging. Sorry. I hate to be the bearer of bad news.
That's okay. I don't want to be 20 years old anymore. Elaine, so why don't more seniors take the bus?
Why don't more seniors take the bus? Well, as I said with my magic pyramid, one of the questions that that was presented to me is, as I was doing my research on why can't people get where they need to go, was that very question: why don't more seniors just take the bus? And what I came out of it is, and obvious from this pyramid, is one size does not fit all. And one of the reasons I'd like seniors to use this and family members to use this as a planning guide and is to start thinking about, these are what are available. Where do I fit? And where do I fit at this point in time? Where might I fit in 20 years, et cetera? And so when I was doing my research, I rode the bus. I hadn't ridden the bus since I was in college and couldn't afford a car. And I saw a lot of really neat things. New buses, I saw some ramps on buses, and I did this in my late 50s, and I was trying to add 30 years to my age. What if I was 30 years older and I saw things like bus drivers not waiting as people were coming up slowly to the bus? Just because someone doesn't have a piece of equipment does not mean that they are able to move quickly. Maybe the very fact they don't have equipment, they have to move more slowly, or they have a lung disease. I'm the last one to judge when I see a blue handicap placard. You know how we do that? You know, why has she got one of those? Why has he got one of those? A lot of younger people do that and make a judgment about it. That person could have a lung disease or a heart disease, and it doesn't show on the outside. But to have the bus drivers not be as cognizant as I wish they would have been of the fact that, I mean, watching them drive away before somebody got to a bus stop, and often that was an elderly person. Watching bus drivers take off while an elderly person was trying to negotiate getting to a seat. That scared me to death. And one of the things that really made me angry was every time an elderly person needed a seat, they didn't always get one. And there were younger people and people healthy. I stood up. I rode standing up most of the time I was in there. And I'm not saying the bus system is bad. It is wonderful for those that can use it. We need to use public transit, but there's a lot of reasons. And in some of the areas in our county, remember we're a very large county, there are very much safety issues around taking a bus trip and what can happen to you. So there's a lot of reasons the seniors don't take buses. The main reason is one size does not fit all. There's no one right way for you to go. It's finding your fit.
Before we continue with questions that I have for the panelists, Carol is going to hand out some cards, or some of you have the cards. And if you have questions, please write them on the cards and hand them to the people in the aisle so that we can then we'll see how much time we have for those questions. So, Linda. What do you need to ask your parents to be prepared for the what ifs of a longer life?
Okay. The reality is we're all going to live a longer life. So whether you're going to ask this of your parent, or if you're an older adult and you're going to give this information to your children, I think it's important that you have articulated where things are, what kind of legal tools you have, who is going to make decisions for you if you lose capacity. Really important. Does somebody have the ability to pay your bills for you if you're hospitalized, if you're in an accident, if you have a surgery, or if you develop a dementia? Alzheimer's dementia can be a 30-year journey. It's a long journey. What are the checks and balances to make sure that you're paying your bills correctly. I had a client that paid her property taxes more than once in 1 month, like 3 times, because no one was helping her, and she was compromised and very anxious about paying taxes. So who is sitting down with you? And as an adult child or a family member, you can preserve the dignity of the person with dementia by doing the bill paying with them, sitting with them, reconciling bank accounts, letting them sign the checks, maybe you make them out. Then you're going to be on top of potential abusers as well. One of the things I found after my mother had her stroke and I went into the home is my mother had 2 stop payments. One to her doc. You know what do they charge you for a stop payment? Like $25 or $35? One stop payment she made was for $7.50 to her doctor, and the other one was $10 to her church. I thought she didn't like the sermon or something. There you go, Gordon. And I had a paid bookkeeper helping her do things, but she wasn't looking at it like I would look at. Those things were good red flags that Mom was having these strokes prior to having a more major stroke that brought her over to this side of the bay. So again, knowing those legal tools, who has the authority to act in your behalf, or can you act on your mom and dad's behalf if you need to? So that's finances. Do you know their wishes? Do you know what they want, or have you articulated your wishes to your adult children? Housing. You know, a lot of people, you know, assisted living isn't that bad of an option. It can be expensive, anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 a month, just an assisted living now in a 1-bedroom apartment. But it's not such a bad choice for some people. But not everyone's been exposed. So tour some places. And one adult daughter I was working with, her mom was real resistant. She was in her late 80s to moving anywhere, mentally very competent. And I told the daughter to tell her mom, Mom, you've always been independent. You've made good choices. I don't want to make a choice for you. I want to know your wishes. If you break your hip or if you have an accident, I want it to be your choice. I said, take your mom to see 2, research 10, pick 2, show your mom. Mom went on the tour with her, said to have nothing to do with it, and the daughter called me about 6 months later and said, Linda, you wouldn't believe it, but my mother just called and said she'd really like to move to one of those places she looked at 6 months ago. So it was her choice. So planning for we'll all have what ifs. Everybody in this room will have a what if, a longer life. We'll fall in a pothole somewhere along this journey. Who is going to be your advocate, and does that person have the abilities to act on your behalf and know your values?
A number of months ago, I was paying my bills on the internet, and I got a bill back from American Express that I hadn't paid the bill the month before, and I looked at it and I knew I paid the bill, and I looked at my internet and I saw that I had paid Allied Waste, which was just before American Express, my American Express bill.
Now I know why your daughter called you.
When I called Allied Waste, I said, my name is Gordon Freeman. They said, we know your problem. Yeah. Okay, so Elaine, are any transportation services covered by Medicare or other insurances?
Well, no. Okay, that's the answer to that. No, the problem is, you know, and again, a lot of myths that are out there. A lot of myths about Medicare is that Medicare is there to take care of you when you get older, and it is. But there's a lot of things that are not covered. The only transportation covered under Medicare is an ambulance. That's it, and a medically necessary ambulance. If you need to go to the doctor and say, oh yeah, Medicare covers an ambulance, I'll call and get one to take me to the doctor, you better be having chest pain or something bleeding somewhere, because it will be denied. You can take the ride. They'll come and pick you up. You can take the ride. It is going to cost you a fortune, much more than you can imagine. But anyhow, so it's really just ambulances. Medicaid has some programs around transportation, but really My dream, one of my dreams, anybody in here in long-term care insurance or selling it or well, in it, okay, how would you like to have in your long-term care insurance policy something, as you have been paying for this over the years, a small amount that was added to pay for assisted transportation as you aged in place or as you aged in a nursing home? Wouldn't that be lovely? I'm going to be talking, don't anybody steal that from me, I'm going to be talking to some insurance companies pretty soon because I read all these brochures and I go, where's the mobility factor? You know, they talk about having somebody come into your home, which is great. They talk about having you go someplace. What if you want to stay in your home and you need transportation for a little bit extra a month over years? I wish my kids were doing it right now, because someday they're going to need it. So the answer is no, and it's really unfortunate. It's one of my soapbox issues. And someday, hopefully our Agents for Change program that we just brought on with Contra Costa for Every Generation, we're going to be out there beating the streets and some of the insurance companies about really making this a benefit. I just want to say one more thing. This is the most beautiful library, one of the most beautiful libraries I've been in. And what it reminded me when I was here today, I was thinking, you know, you can build the most beautiful things in the world, the most fantastic hospital, the most fantastic library, but if our seniors can't get to it, what a sad waste. I don't mean a waste, but how sad it is that so many will not be able to utilize because we don't have that ability to get where we need to go.
I just received a very important comment that I want to read to you. Rossmore has a dial-a-bus service that takes residents door to door and goes outside Rossmore. Our population is 1/7 of Walnut Creek. This information should be included, so I think it's really important because a lot of people live in Rossmore. And a lot of people, even though they live in Rossmore, don't have that information. So thank you very much.
All right, could I just say one quick thing about that? One of the handouts I have up here, this is 5 years old, unfortunately. It needs to be updated, but it talks about that service. You can look at any city, any community. It's called Way to Go Contra Costa, and it was produced by some friends of mine out in the county, and it talks about all the various, what numbers to call. It talks about Rossmore, a wonderful woman who works with us, runs that service. And again, I want to do a one-size-does-not-fit-all. Rossmore is mobilizing a lot of its residents there, but I have a number of them on my program because they need a little bit more and they need the door-through-door assistance that this van is not able to provide for them. I'm back to one-size-does-not-fit-all. It's a fantastic service for those that can use it, and we keep them on it as long as we can, but that service calls and refers clients to us, seniors to us, when they now need door-through-door escort. So we need to be working together on all this. I just wanted to let you know this is up here for those of you that these are scarce right now. They're really hard to find because the county doesn't have any money to produce them, so please take some with you.
And no scams trying to sell them off, you know.
No, they're free, yeah.
I have a few more questions for our panelists, and I will take your questions. If a parent, Linda, if a parent is at risk for abuse, either physical or financial, how do you step in to protect them when they resist every suggestion that a person makes?
Actually, if they resist everything and if you use the techniques that I've talked about earlier, you really need to call in an objective outsider, because one of the things that does happen with lots of older adults and their adult children is they listen to the expert, one of us, but they won't listen to you. It's called filial maturity, whether we see our children and our parent as equal adults or we're still in that child-parent relationship. So when you bring in somebody else, especially Adult Protective Services, they're kind people. They're going to confront the issue. The adult daughter or son could still be in that room, and they're going to say, this is what you need to do, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, to protect yourself, and go from there. So, and as a geriatric care manager, sometimes I remember sitting with a family, and one of the daughters was a doctor and the other was an attorney, and they had told their mother about lots of these services that I'm telling them about, many of the services you've just heard, and mom was being befriended by the gardener. You know, they saw that what mom was paying the gardener was going up as her memory got more fuzzy, and they were concerned about that. And mom took my suggestions to have, she had a bank trust, and they would do bill paying, to let them do the bill paying so that you know, Marty the gardener was going to get $50 a week or whatever that fee was, and not $500 one week because he did some extra gardening. That happens a lot. Home repair is a big scam area. So again, bringing in the third party, not you, sometimes is the way to confront those financial issues. And over on my packet of handouts, my monthly newsletter, I didn't know exactly what we were going to talk about, but it's keeping our elders safe from scams, and you should pick that up before you leave.
I'm going to ask Shirley if you have something to add to that. How people can protect themselves.
Well, we've touched on quite a few suggestions, but I wanted to go back to what I had talked about earlier, and that is the no free lunch, no free dinner situation. Let me tell you how that works, because it's very clever. When you get an announcement in the mail about you're invited to lunch at Scott's or wherever, and the person that's going to be giving the presentation is a qualified financial planner or whatever they say their qualifications are, you'll go there and yeah, you'll have lunch and they'll make a big presentation, but they won't sell you anything. That's not what they do. But what they will do is say, listen, if you want further information or if you want to work with this or see what we can do for you, you know, give me your phone number and, you know, we'll make an appointment and I'll come to the house and whatnot. Well, okay, so you walk away and you've given your phone number to this person, and within a very short period of time, that person will call you and make arrangements to come to your house. And the product they're going to try to sell you is a deferred annuity. And if you are, say, in your late 70s or early 80s or whatever, a deferred annuity could be something that doesn't mature for 10 or 15 years. So you're going to wrap up your money for that period of time and never see the benefit of it, okay? So that's how they get there. That's how they get you interested. It's the hook that they will use to get you to invest in some of these products. And that's totally against the law. And there are, the insurance commissioner in the state of California is very much aware of these scams, and there's efforts to try to put a stop to it. Contractor fraud. There are bands of people that will go around to parking lots and tell you that they could fix something and you know, pay them cash right now. The other fraud about contractors is that they'll come and say your driveway needs repair or whatever, but you've got to pay me before I do the job. And so they'll go with you to the bank and wait outside while you get or withdraw $1,000 or whatever they ask for to pay them. And then as they're going back to the house and you're going back to the house, they take off this way while you're going this way. So those are things that's very common, very, very common. Predatory lending, reverse mortgages. Does anyone have one? Okay. It is by far one of the most expensive financial products that you can get. And there are options that should be considered. And I've got I'm working on legislation right now that will require face-to-face counseling with people that are with borrowers of reverse mortgages. Right now, as it turns out, 90% of the counseling happens over the phone. So you have no way of knowing, is the person I'm talking to getting what I'm telling them? Is it registering with them? And so you need to get that face-to-face contact, because people need to know the consequences of a reverse mortgage down to the penny. It's a very expensive product. Telemarketing, the do not call, I already mentioned, that doesn't work. Incoming, the foreign lotteries, I mean, you know, we've talked about all of that, so I won't go into that now.
Actually, Shirley, I got a free lunch once, and it was legitimate. Now, here was the conditions. We were, my father was having open heart surgery in St. Mary's Hospital in San Francisco. Okay, so my mother and I were waiting for the, and the surgery was successful. Was glad to announce. But anyway, we're waiting, so we go down to the cafeteria to get lunch. So I say, and my mother's in front of me, and I'm in back of her, and I say to the cashier, I'll get the bill for both of us. It comes to me, and I get the check, and it has a star on it. And the cashier said, "Oh, your check has a star in it. If you get a star on your check, that means there's no charge for your lunch." So if you're a rabbi going to a Catholic hospital with a star in it on your check, you might get a free lunch. Elaine, how old is it too old to drive?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
How old is it? Too old. How old
Oh, how
is too
old
old?
is too old to drive? I'm getting there real quick because I'm starting to have problems at night. I can't drive at night. It is not really an age factor. The statistics, the insurance company, the reason my drivers have to be between 25 and 75 are the statistics say that there are more injury accidents when we're over 75 and more injury accidents under age 25. So it's a statistic, it's true, but I have driven with people in their 80s that I have felt very comfortable and safe with, who had excellent vision, excellent reflexes, etc. So it's again back to this myth thing that everything is age related. And I keep saying to the seniors I talk to, let's quit talking about trying to be young. We want to be the age we are and be the best we can be at this age. I love aging, I really do, and my kids think I'm crazy. In fact, I'm doing something, I'm letting my gray hair grow out because I haven't seen what color my hair is for about 25 years. And my little grandson, I'm going to get back to this, my little grandson who's 6'2", last weekend I went to his basketball game and he's never seen me with gray hair. And so he put his arm around me, I'm now under his armpit, you know, and he looks down at me, he says, "Grandma, your hair's finally turning gray." And I said, "Honey, it's been gray since Grandma was in her 30s. But what it reminded me is that, you know, and he will associate, now I'm older because I'm getting gray and this thing, and I've been sneaking this, or I've been gray the whole time he's known me. So you know, it's just kind of interesting to me how we use the term age in terms of what it really means to us. There are race car drivers that are out there. I have a friend who's in his 70s who drives race cars. I think he's crazy because I think anybody who drives a race car is crazy. It's not because he's 70-some years old, okay? Because I think that the danger is just too high. But it's the whole thing around, can you drive safely? I'm very happy to tell you, and I'm hoping, I'm looking down here at my friend, will remember the date. This fall, in October, we are having the Senior Mobility Action Council is having, putting on a workshop. And it'll be at the Concord, but it's for everybody. It'll be at the Concord Senior Center, and I'll get the date for you. Maybe we can get it up on the library website. It's for all seniors and folks interested about seniors and their mobility. It's going to be an older driver workshop where we're going to show older drivers how to be safer and continue to drive, and also how to get from that bridge of making that decision when it's time to stop driving. And I love when you said, make it your idea. When I stop driving, it's going to be my idea, and I hope I will stay sharp enough to realize when it's time, or somebody will have the wisdom to take it away from me. But it's not really about age. It's about how well you are.
We have a lot of wonderful questions here.
Okay.
So I'm going to read them. I think I'm going to read them all. No, don't read them all. We only have 15 minutes. Short answers.
Okay.
So we only have 15 minutes, so I'm going to try to get if you still have a question that wasn't answered, you can ask the panelists or call them, okay, because you have their information later. Can you suggest websites, books that address all the legal paperwork required to be properly prepared, sample documents, and so on?
You know, this month's Money Magazine has a great article. It's about 10 pages, and it has some of those documents. AARP has a wonderful book on caring for your aging family member, and it's fairly recent, probably in the last year to 2 years they came out with it. And that would be a good checklist for legal documents. There will be a seminar at JFK on June 18th. It's a Saturday, a half a morning, with an elder law attorney talking about the legal documents. So look for lectures in the community that cover that. I just finished a 5-week series where I had an attorney talk about those documents. So it's out there.
Okay. I've heard about organic and vascular dementia. Are there others?
Yes, there's probably 50 different dementias. Some are reversible. If you have an acute infection, you're going to have dementia-like symptoms. The top 4 dementias are Alzheimer's disease, Lewy body disease, little Parkinsonian, very important on how you give medications and what medications you give. It's a really challenge for families. Lewy body, vascular dementia related to strokes. Those are the top 3, but there's lots of other dementias as well. Great diagnostic clinic, part of UC Davis, and that's at the VA in Martinez, and it was free, but you know, the state of California.
Okay.
No free leave.
Now, I think one of the questions that you asked, but has been answered, is when senior becomes inadequate driver, how can they be convinced to give up driving when they stubbornly refuse?
There's a wonderful book out, another booklet. It's called We Need to Talk. And the basic premise of it, and it's a free booklet, and I'd be happy to make it available to any of you. The main thing, and I know when it was time with my mother, who continued to drive when she could not see and was driving by squinting, and I saw her do this, and we sat down and had a talk. And one of the things I loved Linda did, talk about how it affects you. Don't say, you need to stop driving. I saw you driving, squinting, you can't even see. Don't put them on the defense. The best thing you can do is help that senior make that decision themselves. And if you talk to them about what the problems are that you have observed and how it affects you, how afraid you are, we've just really got to be very honest in why we're talking to them. We're not telling them to stop driving because we don't want them to have. And another thing, talk to them about the alternatives. I can't tell you how many people have come to our program who said, I would have come here years ago if I had known I didn't have to give up my independence. And it's how you present it.
Is worthwhile to get long-term insurance?
I'm going to take that one, even though probably both of you are very qualified to deal with that. I have a thing about long-term insurance, and my thing about long-term insurance is in the past, people were sold policies that ended up, when they wanted to draw upon them, the money wasn't there. The insurance company went out of business, something happened. And that's something else that I've had legislation about, because in the Class Act, has anybody heard about that? It was in the new health care bill that was passed, how long ago? Last year. But the Class Act would be a government run, like Medicare, where as you work during your working years, you would be able to put money into this fund, and when it came time to draw upon it, you could take the money out and it would help pay for your long-term care. Well, that has not been implemented yet in California, and my legislation didn't go anywhere because we weren't ready to listen to long-term care issues. There are legitimate long-term care insurance carriers, don't get me wrong, but that's something, again, that you've got to do an awful lot of research and take a look at the history of payouts, for example, because if you put money into something and you're not able to get it out, you're going to be a little angry.
Does anyone know if the recent drop in home prices affected seniors, or how it affected seniors?
Ooh, one of the things is seniors aren't moving to assisted living or retirement communities. They're waiting for the prices to come back. So that's another issue. And you know, even getting a reverse annuity mortgage, if you were going to get that, even though there is a big upfront financial charge for that, it sometimes does allow people to stay in their own home. Now the value of the home is depressed. They can't get as much as they could have 3 years ago or 4 years ago. So it has affected.
Oh, you bet.
Yeah.
How do you help or protect someone against predatory family members? Is there any way to protect them?
You don't have children. How's that?
Short answer.
I agree.
Okay, now I have to say something a little more serious. One of the things that we have done because of our Reassurance Phone Friend program, which I didn't talk about tonight, where these relationships are developed and real free on the phone to talk about everything from anything and feel real free and comfortable, abuse does come up. And sometimes when they're talking to one of our volunteers are instructed, because they are mandatory reporters, to come back to me or one of our program coordinators and let us know. And what we do is, it takes a lot of courage to turn your kid in. Oh my God, lots of times you are really worried that they are going to be making decisions about your life. And what we help do is bring in as Linda said, an outside party. It can be Adult Protective Services, someone to speak for you, so it's not you attacking your kid who's doing these. We have horror stories. You would not believe what children will do to elder adults. But anyhow, to try to not just turn your head the other way, but to help them build the courage to let you help them and bring in someone else to help them, because it's very, very hard to confront your own child.
I want to thank our panelists for so much information and so well presented. I asked our panelists some time ago to recommend books that would be very important for us to have to understand issues of seniors and so on and aging. And I was very proud to announce that almost all the books, except for one, were already in the library. And we have a list of those books. As you go out at the table, you have a list of those books. But the one book that we didn't have is called, that was recommended, is called A Bittersweet Season, Caring for Our Aging Parents and Ourselves by Jane Gross. And in honor of our three panelists, the Walnut Creek Library Foundation is donating this book to our library. So we'll all be in the Contra Costa system. Thank you very much. Carol?
Thank you. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you all for coming. And if you're like me, your memory is fading a little bit. So there was so much information given tonight. If you would like, this program will be broadcast on Walnut Creek Television, so you can review. So very quickly, June the 7th at 5 o'clock, June the 11th at 6:30 a.m., 6:30 a.m. That's what it says. June 14th, if you can remember how to work your recorder, you can record it. June the 14th at 5 p.m., June the 18th at 6:30 a.m., and that is WCTV, Channel 28 on Comcast, Channel 29 on Astound, and Channel 99 on AT&T UVerse.